Yep, we are live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday, the 23rd of February. This is Resurgence News, and once again, we've got a very, very busy agenda for you. We're going to talk about thought police, go around to a grandma's house to give her a hard time. The iPhone has turned into the SPYphone. Very, very concerning rules that come out this week. Elon Musk and Trump are going to Fort Knox to look for the gold. And we're also going to talk about the Million Woman March that happened earlier this week down in Cornwall. So without further ado, let's roll that intro. Good evening, lovely people, and welcome again to Resurgence News, the live show that will bring you the current up-to-date news without any bias at all. No, we are not paid by Russians or anybody else. So
I've lost my Russian hat tonight.
Exactly.
Live from Moscow. It's loads of stuff.
As always, joined by Debbie Hicks. Debbie, how are you?
I'm really good. How are you? Yeah.
Very, very good. I feel spring in the air now.
Learning Russian. I've taken up some new hobbies. Learning Russian.
Yeah, I can put my R's backwards, so that's kind of my the start to do that. But yeah, I'm waiting to see any rubles. So I've not been given any of those yet. So obviously not doing something right.
Yeah.
Now we've got a really busy show tonight, and later on, Debbie, you're going to tell us how you got on as well in Cornwall, the Million Woman March, and we got some footage of that to play as well. But yeah, the first story to touch on, actually, in this dystopian country that we live in now, very dystopian, is a story that was actually published today in the Mail. It was spoken about earlier last week. People being visited by the police for stuff that we know they posted online, but it's got much more sinister now. Check out this video here of a grandma called Helen, where she had two detectives come round to visit her.
Hello, is that Helen? Hello? Is it Helen? Yeah, Helen, we're from the police. I'm a police officer, Helen. Can I speak to you? You're going to speak? Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll give you a call on your phone, okay? I'm not going to stand out here if you're not going to speak to me.
Wow. Very disturbing scenes there that George Orwell would have probably spoke about. Now, this Helen, who had these two detectives turn up, the grandma, her crime was criticising the Labour Party and the councillors in particular, and the Hope You Die scandal, where they spoke about old people dying, freezing to death in their homes, which was a very, very sick thing to talk about. So Helen had the audacity to talk about that. Now, Debbie, we've got some crazy stats here. We've got 76 of burglaries go unsolved, 89% of rapes go unsolved, 56% of shoplifting goes unsolved, 75% of car theft goes unsolved. Do you think this is the best use of police time visiting grandmas like Helen?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Not only is it a waste of resources and money, I mean, it's the police, I don't think really are accountable. I mean, there's been quite a lot of heads of different police forces that have spoken out over the last few years about this kind of thing, and that they don't feel they should be doing it. Yes, you could say, well, they're making the decision, but you know, what we learned this, it's all been talked about now, that was during the lockdown period, the police were getting instructions from the Home Secretary to do these kind of things, you know, pull people up on social media posts. I don't know what this lady put on her social media. I don't know what the wording of it was, but even if it was offensive, even if it was a bit rude, you know, no, this is not what you do. I mean, it's that is what goes with free speech, is that sometimes people are going to be offensive. I strongly believe that as well. I think free speech is the freedom to offend. Otherwise, how can you have free speech? So it absolutely ridiculous.
It's a dark and slippery road to go down, isn't it, really? When they're controlling what people can and can't say. We've seen people arrested for standing outside praying and all sorts of things, but these people are there to serve and protect us. Gail's got a great comment here about the thought police are supposed to protect people and deal with crimes. And you'd think there's far more pressing things to do than troll people's social media comments. You know, it's like, I guess it's the whole DEI thing probably coming as well. They're not, they seem to be too afraid to tackle like the hard criminals. They demonize some people, saying, you know, calling them far right on this on social media, calling it hate crime. And there they are. They think this is a great use of time, though, to have two, you know, very high-ranking officials in the police on big salaries to come around and start bullying old people about what they can't say. You know, do you think perhaps they're afraid about what people are talking about?
I mean, I don't know if it's so much that they're afraid, but I think they're trying to create this culture and normalize this idea that we get used to the fact that you can be pulled up for free speech in this way, you can be policed for it. I think the lockdown was the start of this very visible culture of the police policing what people say and what they do in every single way. In terms of the private sphere, the police have come into people's private sphere as well, like when, you know, the rules about what you were doing during lockdown and where you were going. And I think it's that. I think the fact the media keeps showing these, you know, of course the lady's recording it, I think that's great, she's exposing it, but the fact that the media keep pushing all this as well and showing it, I just think they want us to get used to the idea that we could have a knock on our door if we say the wrong thing. We all get quite scared and we start policing ourselves. That's what they want. They want us to police ourselves so that we don't speak out or that we change the wording of things. I mean, you know what I'm like? I speak out about lots of stuff, but even I sometimes have typed something on social media and thought, oh, I better change that. I'm sure you've done it. We all do it. We all self-police sometimes, but they want us to get worse. I think they want us to go even further than that.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Actually, to actually publish this like on a paper. Of course, we know they're all like controlled by money, and you can't trust any of them. But you're right though. They're really scaring people because they're like, oh, you won't want a knock on your door. These two coming round. Oh, I might be in trouble. Like the whole TV licensing thing, the way they bully people into paying that, pretending there's I've got like a letter here for the TV license. They send ones this cut around all the time to me to try and scare people all the time. And it's that same sort of thing, isn't it? The psychological aspect of it. I think you really point there.
I do think that's more of the bigger thing is because obviously you can't put everybody in prison just for free speech, or that, you know, maybe that's the society they want us to move to. I think it's more about just the invisible walls of prison that we're going to live in, if you like, where we fear all these things, so we just don't do the things we need to do.
The social conditioning, I suppose, because you remember when you would think back about to the pandemic time, they were encouraging people to grass their neighbours up for having parties and the like, weren't they? It's that social conditioning. And of course, people would abuse that. If they had a beef with their neighbour, they'd be just phoning up and reporting them. So it's that whole sort of state, isn't it? Like you say, the invisible policing state.
Yeah. Well, like a Stasi kind of, you know, what they had in Eastern Europe, Stasi kind of system of just fear of saying or doing anything in case this, you know, the police come for you, you know, the political police. And I think, you know, that's the system that we're moving to. You know, nobody wants police coming into the house. It's a horrible experience. It's, you know, you've got children as well. It's, and yeah, I agree with the comment. It's an easy target, low hanging fruit, isn't it? old ladies, women, old ladies knock on their door and scare them and then put it in the media and scare everybody else. It's when really, why aren't they going for people that are involved in drugs or crime or, things that are quite serious or violent? Because often, I'm going to sort of say something controversial here, often it's very organized crime that the police are in on. I'm sorry, that's the truth of it. Often the police are in on organized crime where there's money involved. There's so much corruption that goes up the system. But little people like us, we're prey, aren't we? We really are. So
exactly. Yeah. And probably what happened like in other countries in the past, like you said, the Stasi places and all that, the same sort of operations went on. It's just a history repeating itself more than anything. And they're trying to scare people into compliance, really. But it's like that boiling frog syndrome, isn't it? They talk about when you slowly boil a frog, it doesn't realize what's going on because it's slowly being put onto us. And that's what happened since 2020, that whole debacle about, people just didn't know what was happening. And they made everyone compliant in so many silly ways, like even to walk around a supermarket with direction arrows and things like that, things that we wouldn't believe, thinking back on it now. It's a psychological attack. This is a psychological and spiritual warfare, what's going on at the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what it is. And it's we're being attacked on every level on a daily basis. I mean, the information that's been bombarded at us through the media at the moment, is on a phenomenal level. And I think I always say to people, obviously I watch and follow it, but it's more from the watching and the following, not because I believe or take notice of any, it's more from I'm trying to see what they're doing to people. That's why I watch it. I'm trying to analyze it. But what I will say to people is, why are you watching the TV or reading the newspapers? Just stop it. That can't have power over you unless you're reading and watching it. Distance yourself from it. And if we all did that, I know we're going to talk about another thing to do with phones as well in a moment, but if we all did that and distance ourselves, they wouldn't have so much power over us.
No, exactly. It's like a spell and a curse, isn't it, the mainstream media? And people need to snap out of it. Ian makes a great comment here about, politicians are the real scumbags. Criminals should be arrested. Lose the fear. Yeah, exactly. There's the only thing about fear is fear itself. So you're quite right there. People need to wake up to this. Well, this leads actually quite well onto our next story. People may have seen this week, for those with an iPhone, that Apple pulls iCloud security features out. Now, I know a lot of people are either Android or Apple, so this has affected a lot of people. I know a lot of people with iPhones, but basically, Apple is going to remove its highest level of data protection from iPhones after the Labour Keir Starmer government, reportedly demanded to have access to user data. This includes end-to-end encryption, I think it's called, and it's also their camera roll as well, so they can see what photos you've been taking out. There's a major hack through the back door here. And it's, as per usual, people are like, if you don't have anything to hide, what you worry about? But Debbie, this is a really, really overreach, surely, on our freedom and our security.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There has been talk about this, hasn't there, for a while, that this was going to happen. There was something that Apple came out with. Was it about a year ago? I know we talked about this for a while. So again, I almost feel like they've been prepping us for this idea that all of our information, if you like, everything about us is not private anymore. I think we've had this trickle all the time, this idea we have to accept this. And I feel this is part of it. Because is it just me? But I suspect, I don't know if people listening at home, watching at home agree, that this has probably been what they've been doing for quite some time, that they've had access to our phones, the government with the phone companies. I mean, when you looked at, I'll give you an example. When you look at the contracts that they had ready during the lockdown for track and trace, do you remember that with the track and trace? They trialed it in some places, but they didn't roll it out fully. I think it was million big money pound contracts. They were working hand in glove with the phone companies then, but now we're supposed to believe, but all this time they haven't been looking at our data. I don't know. I just I suspect that they've been doing this for quite some time. And as Edward Snowden said, it was Edward Snowden said this, didn't he, about the states? They've been accessing people's data for a long time. He said that, and I think Julian Assange has also said the same. So
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Now we'll probably get throttled for talking about things like this, but you know, we were talking about this before the show, weren't we, Debbie? That you know, I was saying it's quite likely that security organizations like GCHQ have been able to spy on us for many, many years now. I mean, the software is there. If you watch this show, you can have encrypted words. The subtitles added quite easy, so they don't need. You don't need someone sitting down and listening to it. We've got these computers just listen to everything all the time anyway. So it's highly likely that they can spy on us all the time, and that's Android anything. You know, this is really just a smokescreen for what's really going on behind the scenes. And as you said, Debbie, like I think with the 33 billion track and trace contact, that was a big part of it. Installing that on your phone, this app and all that, agreeing to all these things because you're really scared about the you know what, giving up all the way your security rights. There's way more going on behind the scenes here that we don't know here, and this is kind of a smokescreen.
Yeah. No, I mean, on a personal level, I won't go into detail. I'll probably be accused of being absolutely mad conspiracy theorist, but you know, obviously, I was a quite assertive anti-lockdown activist, and I've had so many strange things happen with my Apple phone. I have got an Apple phone, iPhone, lots of strange things, which are not logical. They're not an explanation for them. So I do think also it's very much used to target political activists, is accessing their phones. I mean, if you get arrested, I hope no one's had the pleasure of being arrested. I've been arrested quite a few times. First thing they do is take your phone. They take your phone away from you, and they access your phone. You know, why do they want to do that? I mean, we know why they want to do that, because they want to follow what we're doing. So
exactly, and they can like find stuff that's been deleted like 6 years back and stuff like that. So nothing's hidden at all. It's all there. There's a great surveillance going on in this country that we don't even know about. We really don't, and that's why people that speak out against it, like we have done, you just get throttled. They just hold you down or keep you down in some sort of place, because a lot of these problems can be resolved immediately with open dialogue. But, it's quite obvious that we live in some sort of communist totalitarian state at the moment, where the freedom of speech really is non-existent at all. But at some point, this bubble, I really do think is going to burst at some point. So even like the police, though, they have a duty as well. It's going to affect them at some point. At some point, they've got to stop taking orders. As like we've seen with Helen, say, no, this is not right. This goes against people's basic human rights here. And you've got to say no, because like I'm just following orders. It's not an excuse anymore. It's gone way beyond that, really. You've got to stand up, because it's going to affect your children as well.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder, though, doesn't it? How far will people go? Because it's, we're hearing of awful things happening all the time, and it's people don't speak up, do they? Or when people, and I think the reason is when people do speak up, they very much are victimized, witch hunted, ostracized, lose their jobs, lose their position in society. So that's where they can't manage. I mean, I've very much been a victim of that as well, in terms of my ability to work, because of the things that I've said and done. And so it will stop other people. That's what they do it for. It will stop other people, whether it's the NHS or the police, speaking up to the stuff that they see. But it's how can you sleep at night? I mean, is it just me? It's like, how can you sleep at night if you're watching awful things happening? And
exactly, and it's our children's future we're trying to protect. If I couldn't do it, I mean, you can't just say nothing. That's a coward's way out. Everyone's just got to grow a pair, really, and speak out when they see these things. It might cost them, a lot of stuff, their liberties and freedoms in this dystopian world, but you've got to stand firm against this, otherwise it'll just get worse and worse and worse, and we'll all be in a digital kind of prison at some point, So So money's not everything, you know. Your freedom's worth way more than that, you know. And I'm sure Debbie's the same. I'd rather die on my feet than on my knees, because I couldn't live in such a dystopian future, especially when people have shed blood for our freedom in the past. You know, it's a real wake-up call.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, we'll move on to our next story now. The latest show going on out in the United States with Trump and Musk. Great double act there. Lots going on. This week they've announced that they're going to visit Fort Knox to find out where if the gold's still there. Just check this out.
We're also going to Fort Knox. I'm going to go with Elon. And would anybody like to join us? Because we want to see if the gold is still there. We want to see. Wouldn't that be terrible? We open up.
Now, one of the reasons I picked up on this story really is because for a long time, gold has been a massive backer of the currency and the economy. So make no mistake here, they know exactly what is or isn't in Fort Knox. But what I believe is happening is there's going to be a big show. Oh, it's all empty. There's no gold. And what does that mean? That means the US dollar is going to be completely worthless and just a big pile of petty paper. Debbie, what do you think might be a reason that they'd want that?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think we could get into a discussion here and talk about, you know, if the gold is there or isn't it there? Where might it have gone? Or, you know, we're never going to know. And the problem is they might say it's empty and it might not be, or it might be empty. We're not going to know. There's so much propaganda and theatre in politics at the moment. But I think you're absolutely right to step back, and it's like, well, where are we going in the world at the moment? We're going towards a digital economy. We're going to a cashless economy, digital dollar, digital pound, whatever it's going to be. This, you know, despite all the so-called differences, they bringing this in everywhere. Europe, Russia as well, China, CBDC, or whether it's going to be central bank backed, or however they're going to do it with another form of digital currency. I think you're right. I think we're kind of building up to a different system. And we need to be very vigilant, because it's not a system that's about our freedom. Digital money is not about our freedom. There's no way. It's about control. The only way you've got freedom is with cash. Yeah, that's the only way. It's despite the cash as well when we're living in a mad economy. But once that's gone, and I am really worried about where we're going at the moment.
It seems like there's a story playing out, isn't it? So what will happen is, of course, suddenly, there's no gold here. And so the dollar's just going to go boom, because they printed all these dollars out to send to Ukraine, all over the place. There was another video from Trump actually this week where he went, which is obviously connected in a way. He was reading about where they've been sending aid to, foreign aid, some of the most ridiculous places. So they're showing the waste there where all this paper money's being sent to. Actually, I won't play it all, but I'll just quickly play a minute of this, just so you get the drift of what you're saying.
Where's the money being spent, right? Let's go into that for just a second. $520 million for a consultant on the environment. It's called Environmental, Social, and Governance. Investments in Africa and mobilize private sector resources. $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental, sounds like an environmental study. I've always been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but I paid like $50,000, not $520 million. $520 million for ESG. $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, that's nice. $25 million going to Colombia.
So basically, he reels out a long list of where they're sending all this money to, and obviously there's a lot of corruption obviously involved with that. The same with our country. I spoke to Robert Buckland, our MP at the time, about this, and he said, "Oh, we got to send foreign aid to these places to keep boots off the ground." I'm thinking, well, we don't have any boots to put on the ground anyway. But Debbie, I guess the point I was trying to get to there, showing this video, is like he's there showing all this money goes to different places. All the dollars are spread around. It's the world reserve currency.
Yeah.
Can you see what might happen? I suppose if suddenly there's a crash, and they're gonna have to start winding the dollar down. Well, it will probably crash overnight. Yeah. What are they going to do then? Do you think?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I think they're going to have no choice, are they? It's we're going in the States. It will be here or hit on Europe. It will hit everywhere, really, won't it? It will knock on effect in terms of how we're going to have no money. We're going to have no access to money.
Problem.
We're not going to be able to buy food. We're not going to be able to go to work. We're not going to be able to do anything. Everything's going to come to a standstill. People are going to panic. There's going to be riots. There's going to be looting. I'm just saying there's a possibility, by the way. I'm not, I've got my crystal ball in front of me, or maybe I have. I don't know. But anyway, this is what is likely to happen. And when people are in that situation, what do they need? They need order. And they will come in with order. They will establish order. And the way to do it is digital money. You've got your digital file. You've got your digital money. You've got your digital access. You can go and buy this, you can go and buy that. It will be, I don't think communism is quite the word actually, but it will be a similar system in the sense of that everyone will have to do wherever it's access to your food or where you travel.
Rations.
You exactly, rations, yeah. And this is where the carbon stuff will come in with that as well, the carbon credits. And
And that's this is where... Yeah, people were conditioned back in 2020. That was a test run to prepare people for what's going to come, and so it won't be such a thing. It's that problem, reaction, solution again. That was a test run for something, obviously, that people could still get food and buy what they want and all that. But now, obviously, if something like that happens, they're going to have to be more. They've had the test run before, the emergency drill. The fire alarm drill going off and nothing happens, but this could be the real next thing. And of course, like you said, when people are desperate, they'll just go along with anything. They'll take anything.
When you've got if you need food and water, what are the basics of life that we all have to have? Food and water and safety, physical safety. If there's people rioting, looting. Things are going absolutely into meltdown. People will want order. Exactly. They will want it.
And you see why that's why it also connects with trying to destroy the farmers and all that, the people that supply our food and stuff like that. It hasn't just all happened. All these things are big parts of the jigsaw going into one place, where the ultimate goal really is to make people financial slaves and have them ration on this digital system. It's what's all in place, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll just have to see. Obviously, we're following things. Things are happening very quickly. If things are changing very quickly at the moment, I think we're going to have to watch what happens. Our best tool as ever is non-compliance, but I appreciate how hard that might be if we're in a difficult situation. But it's, and we don't want to be here to panic people and scare people, because I think, and I said this at the women's, which I know we're going to talk about in a moment, the women's rally in Truro on Monday. I said, as people in communities, we're very resilient. We're very creative. When we have to be, we can be very much like that, I think. It's just we don't have to, which is we've got so used to things being available in our society, haven't we, that we haven't been like that for a long time. But I think a lot of us are going to have to accept the idea that unless you want to be this digital slave where you go and get your half a block of cheese a week or whatever else they're going to bring in, because I was reading some report that that's what it's going to be, something like half a block of cheese a week. I don't know where that information come from, but unless you want to be this digital slave where, I don't know, you've run out of fuel, you can't have any fuel today, so you only get down the road or whatever it is. If we don't want to live in that world, we're going to have to be creative, aren't we, in our community about how we access food and how we do things. And it's, we've got to start thinking about it now, maybe. Because
No, you're absolutely right, and it's good that we're talking about it now to at least give people, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it puts the seed into people's minds to start thinking about these possible things that could easily happen. But obviously, Debbie and I will be monitoring this.
And I hate panicking people. I remember there was a lot of us that went through all these thought processes during the lockdown because we wasn't sure what was going to happen then, if it was going to continue. You know, without going into detail, maybe we can do a show on this and get people on to give advice, because there's people far more knowledgeable than probably you and I on this. But, you know, for instance, there are lots of natural springs in the UK. You'd be amazed how many. There's lots. There's so many things that we need to sort of start thinking about, I think, yeah. But,
I think so too. I know there's communities like this up and down the country. There are in Swindon as well. We've got a great community, but, you know, but there's nothing wrong with being prepared.
No.
For anything. And
if you don't need it, that's even more fantastic. But if it's there.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's great. Right, we're going to our last story now. I just might all the time. Now, Debbie went down to the Million Woman March just this last week in Truro. So we're going to talk about that. We've got a video now here quickly we'll play. Not sure about the sound quality, so you might need to turn it up a bit, but I'll play some anyway. Then, Debbie can tell us about the event and how the day went. Yeah, I don't think the sound quality is too great there.
No, that was my filming. You can blame me. Yeah.
No, it looks good event, Debbie. So what the Million Women's March and what is this? What is the group?
I don't know if there's a particular group, but I know that there was a lady. Can't remember her name. I'm so sorry, but I think she's tried to keep a low profile because had a lot of harassment. Who organised this Million Women's March for different places around the country. I think it was going to be in London as well, and it was cancelled because she was getting harassed. And the idea was that women should come together and that men should support it, but the focus should be on women to talk about their experiences of sexual violence, domestic abuse, whether they've been subject also, because that's been in the news, to any gangs or predatory groups of people. I know that's been in the news as well. So there was a focus on all that kind of thing. And it was very interesting because, I spoke about, growing up with domestic abuse. And then there was another lady there who spoke up. I think that lady there actually in the video, very, very bravely and very, very confidently about being subject to predatory gangs where she'd been sexually abused. I think it might have been in the States. I'm not sure. That lady that was speaking. Another lady spoke about when she was a child, what she went through. And then she also spoke about this big economy which is what we talked about on this show as well in lots of ways, with trafficking in people as well. And she was saying that, this huge economy, and that a lot of women that are in that economy are often coerced into it. So she was talking about that. So it was very, very, emotional for people, very poignant. But also, I think the focus on, and I said that in my speech, I also said at the end, that even though women are talking about their experiences, this isn't because we're not here, as an attack on men. We're here as saying we've got this problem and we want men and women to come together and say, this is not good for any of us, and we need to change it. Because this, if you've got daughters or if you've got granddaughters, do you want them to grow up in a world where they're subject to this? So it was, no. It wasn't as funny as we hoped. It was a Monday and it was freezing cold. It was Cornwall, really cold. But I think they're thinking of something else. So there might be something bigger coming along, hopefully.
Yeah, well, these things always start small, don't they? Then they get bigger and bigger as the momentum goes on, because it's about getting the word out, really.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised, sadly surprised, I'd imagine, how many people have been affected by these kind of issues. And it takes a lot of guts to come out and speak about things like that. Something so personal, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
they're planning more around the country, aren't they? So
planning.
There's some more on the horizon.
I'm not sure. I think there was sort of some talk about doing it in a different way next time so that they can bring more people in. Because obviously they don't want the idea of it to be just women. Yeah, I think that's the idea, is they'll bring in more people and do it in a different way. So
good for everyone involved, and being down there and supporting that, very, very important.
Yeah, no, they're really, they're a really good group in Cornwall. We had Shelley Tasker a couple of weeks ago. They do lots down there on all sorts of things, farming. I think they're doing some stuff on farmers' rights as well. So they're a good group. If you're in that area, get involved and help them. They're really good. Yeah.
And any area that you're in, if you look out for your local community to support such things, they're everywhere. Like I said earlier, I know in Swindon we got quite a good network that's being built up. Some fantastic people in there that can give advice, on many different subjects, away from like the state propaganda. Try and get away from that reliance of them before I'm sure it comes hopefully crumbling down soon. But I mean, it's almost 9 o'clock now, so I guess we're calling into the show. Hopefully we'll be back next week. God knows what's going to happen. Like I said, anything could happen. I got big concerns about the economy. I think next week, something big's coming up there. We're in the middle of a war. I mean, it's World War III, but people don't realise that. Did you have any closing thoughts, Debbie?
I think, we've talked about some quite serious stuff. And I think really, if you're following this kind of thing and you're interested, I think we all know deep down that this world is coming. But also, I think this is how I try and live my life. And it's having a balance between being aware and not being fooled about the world we're living in, but also not being scared. After what I've been through the last few years of my activism, I've got to this point where I'm not scared. And I think we all have to try and, step back and just realize that actually that's the biggest thing, is being scared. If you lose the fear, I didn't think I was going to get through the lockdown. I thought I was going to end up in like a detention centre. And once I accepted that, my fear went. And I think if we can just lose the fear and accept we've got some horrible stuff coming, but, this isn't the first time in history. You look back for all different generations, and nearly I would say, different generations have had to do all this stuff before. They got through it. We'll get through it. I think we will. We will get through, but we're going to have to stick together a bit more. And can we just stop the right and left stuff and just, which is what we've been trying to do, isn't it, Martin?
Exactly.
We're not trying to divide people. Apparently, we're trying to divide people. We're trying to have different people on this show so we can let's talk to each other and just listen.
That's it. They want us to fight, like the analogy of the red and black ants in a jar. I think that's really great words you left us on there, Debbie. Just not to be scared and not to fear. And you're well qualified to speak about that after what you've been through. So you're a real inspiration.
What knows? I mean, maybe I'm still destined for a detention centre. I don't know. But...
No.
Seriously, it's just try and still enjoy your life and do what you can, but also just think, start feeling a bit, start having plans in the back of your mind about, what am I going to do? How am I going to cope? How am I going to manage? Yeah.
No, very wise words and very, very inspirational as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we'll say good night now. Thank you everyone for watching. Please share far and wide. And thank you, Debbie, as always.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Yeah, and I shall see you next week.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. You take care.
Bye. Bye.